On March 7, 2025, after 23 years on death row, Brad Keith Sigmon was executed by firing squad at Broad River Correctional Institution in Columbia, South Carolina, marking the first such execution in the U.S. since 2010. On the afternoon of April 27, 2001, David and Gladys Lark were at home in Greenville County, South Carolina, unaware that their daughter's former boyfriend had arrived with a weapon and a plan. Hours earlier, Brad Sigmon had decided he would punish Rebecca Barbera for ending their relationship, and her parents would pay the price first. Armed with a wooden baseball bat, Sigmon entered the Larks' home. What followed was not an outburst, but a prolonged, brutal, double murder. Sigmon first attacked David Lark, striking him repeatedly in the head. Gladys tried to escape or intervene but was also beaten to death with multiple blows. The forensic pathologist later testified that both victims suffered extensive cranial fractures and signs of prolonged blunt force trauma, suggesting that neither died instantly. Sigmon didn't flee. Instead, he waited for Rebecca to arrive. When she returned home that night, he abducted her at gunpoint and forced her into a vehicle. Over the next few hours, she persuaded him not to harm her. Eventually, he let her out and drove away. The Larks' bodies were discovered shortly afterward. The scene was described as domestic but catastrophic, blood spatter across the walls, defensive wounds on both victims, and no evidence of forced entry. Police quickly identified Sigmon as the suspect. Sigmon eluded police for 11 days. He was captured on May 8, 2001, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. In his possession were multiple weapons, personal belongings of Rebecca Barbera, and notes that investigators described as rambling but targeted. At trial, the evidence was both direct and overwhelming. Forensic blood analysis matched the victims. Fingerprints placed Sigmon inside the Larks' home. The baseball bat was located and confirmed as the murder weapon. No alternate suspects were identified. More damning than the physical evidence was Sigmon's own admission. In court, he stated, "I am guilty," in front of the jury. He made no effort to deflect blame, but also offered no detailed explanation. He confessed without a fight, but was that confession a sign of remorse or defeat? The prosecution presented the case as a calculated act of revenge. They focused on aggravating factors: 2 victims, a weapon of prolonged pain, and a murder committed during a burglary. They argued that the crimes were slow, deliberate, and physically torturous. The defense team conceded guilt, but fought to spare Sigmon's life. They presented records of drug addiction, mental illness, and a long history of emotional instability. Psychiatrists diagnosed him with major depressive disorder and possible suicidal ideation. According to testimony, he had told friends he planned to kill Rebecca and then himself, but couldn't follow through. The jury sentenced him to death on July 20, 2002. A separate conviction for burglary resulted in a 30-year sentence. His direct appeal was denied in 2005. His final federal habeas petition was rejected in 2023. In 2021, the state lacked the means to carry out a lethal injection, delaying the execution. After legal and logistical issues were resolved, the South Carolina Supreme Court scheduled his execution for March 7, 2025. Sigmon chose to die by firing squad. Sigmon's final meal was unremarkable in its familiarity, but carefully chosen. Fried chicken from KFC, green beans, mashed potatoes with brown gravy, buttermilk biscuits, cheesecake, sweet tea. He ate alone in silence and left nothing unfinished. Prison staff reported no unusual behavior in his final hours. Sigmon remained calm and quiet. There were no signs of visible distress, resistance, or religious rituals. He declined to speak publicly in the chamber, but wrote a final statement, which was read by his attorney. In it, Sigmon emphasized Christian compassion. "To my fellow Christians, I call on you to help us end the death penalty. Not because I say so, but because Christ does. Not under the law of Moses, but under the grace of the New Testament." He did not address the victims' families directly, nor did he apologize or explain his actions. There were no tears, no final pleas. He simply waited for the process to begin. At 6 p.m., Sigmon was escorted to the execution chamber. He was secured to a metal chair with restraint belts around his arms, legs, and chest. A circular target was placed over his heart. A leather hood covered his head. 15 feet away, behind a curtain, 3 trained prison staff members each took aim with .308 caliber rifles. Only one rifle contained a blank, so no one would know who fired the fatal shot. At precisely 6:07 p.m., all 3 shooters pulled their triggers simultaneously. Witnesses reported hearing a single, unified crack. Sigmon's body jolted slightly and then slumped forward. There was no audible sound from him. He was pronounced dead at 6:08 p.m. The autopsy confirmed the bullets had punctured the heart and lungs. Death was rapid. No medical intervention was required. He died without a word, but what did his silence mean? Submission, defiance, or something in between?